Hey, everybody. Welcome to Game Mess Mornings with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from giantbomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about apologizing for getting caught and the fortuitous timing of the Switch 2's biggest surprise so far. It's going to be a good one because we have Nathan Grayson on the show. Nathan, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah.
I'm glad to have you here.
Monday.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's a good Monday because I believe it's time for Woke 2, is my understanding. We've moved on, right? You guys have some stuff happening over at Aftermath. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so we're doing a theme week called Woke Week, which we've had percolating for like a year. The origin of it was entirely that we were having a meeting and we're like, man, we should come up with like a new kind of theme week that we could do. And the name was good enough that we were like, we got to design a whole week around that.
Exactly. Yes, this is exactly how it works over here. Yeah, we'll come up with the dumber the idea, the better. Usually, I like this.
Exactly. I actually here. Let me see. Because the camera angle's not great for it. I'm wearing one of our.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Okay, I wasn't prepared for that. That's really good for audio listeners. That's is that the PS2 font basically?
Yeah.
And it says Woke 2. It's that's excellent stuff. So like when you're putting together a week like this, what are you guys trying to like do? Like what's the fun stuff you're focused on?
For the most part, it's like a package of stories. So it's a bunch of like different stories built around a theme. In this case, it's a fairly loose theme, and so it's just up to writers' particular interpretations.
Right.
Like Gita just published a piece that's kind of about what Woke 2 is in theory, and basically concludes that where the first kind of movement around all of that was rooted in a lot of like, watching and like saying things online and whatnot, that Woke 2, at least in theory, should be rooted in action, should be rooted in, community building and like actually doing things for the people around you and ensuring that, those that you care about and just, larger groups of people are taken care of and safe and all of that. And then I've got a couple in the works that are about different video game communities that I feel like exemplify a kind of, welcoming spirit, in a very kind of like, in a way where they're very intentional about it. So those two are Games Done Quick, which is, the speedrunning charity marathon.
God, that does feel like Woke 2. It really like going there. I've been the last couple, at least the awesome Games Done Quick. It absolutely feels that way.
Yeah. Well, and it's really cool because they put so much effort into it. Like they really, really make it a point of like, this is what our organization is about. We're going to ensure like as a daily practice that it stays this way. And so I wanted to chart like how they accomplished that and how they continue to do that. And the other one is Warframe because,
Sure.
Yeah.
I was like building communities and stuff like that. It's definitely sort of like the natural evolution of thinking about this stuff, and all of us having been through the ramifications and the fallout from everything that happened since like 2014. And it's just like, what can like trying to go out there and yell on the internet obviously it didn't work, whatever. I don't know what we're even trying to do. I think we were just trying to have a fun time on the internet together and it got ruined. But definitely having kids and being like, what can I do to like improve their lives and the people around them, their lives as well. It's just like a small D&D group at the library or something like that, just a safe space where they can express themselves. That's definitely been like the mode I've been moving into. So I'm looking forward to reading everyone's opinions about this, definitely from people who are going to take the time to think about this in a deep way. So looking forward to Woke Week over on Aftermath.
Yeah, we're also in service of that. We're doing a sale. So if you seen the site before and you're like, I don't really have the money right now to subscribe or whatever, now maybe you do. Now maybe it is cost effective because we're doing a sale on both our monthly and annual tiers, so something for everyone. And yeah, we'd love if you came through and joined us and checked it out.
I'm a subscriber, and I'll just say for my part, everybody, whenever people talk about, hey, we're community supported, and they start talking about asking people to subscribe, it feels good to already be a subscriber. Get on that side of the fence, everyone. It goes a long way. All right, let's get into it and talk about subscribing to us and what we do over here. We're Giant Bomb. We're independent games media. We're out here on our own, except for you. We have you at our backs. You went to giantbomb.com/join, became a premium member. Thank you to everyone who has done that. If you haven't, if you do so, it's going to get you ad-free versions of our shows. It's going to get you a bunch of premium stuff we're working on. Marry Me Tomodachi. This is the run. You're not going to want to miss the most recent one of those. I have an all-time bad decision Go see it for yourself. All kinds of great stuff is happening over there. And really, you get that satisfaction of knowing you're supporting independent games media and putting your money where your mouth is. As far as this show goes, most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you were watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with our headlines here. Minecraft Dungeons is getting a sequel this year, and it's coming to PS5 and Switch too. Just a small, quick one. I'm mostly noticing this because it's like, oh yeah, Minecraft Dungeons. I do have kids that are into Minecraft now, so I'm like, I should have gone back and played this with them. Now I'll do that with the second one for sure. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. Mojang. Have we decided which one of those it is? I think it's Mojang, right?
Wait, is it really? I thought it was Mojang.
It could be. You know what? I always will like double think myself into that. It's like it probably is just Mojang. Mojang and Microsoft have go ahead. Have announced a sequel to 2020's action spinoff Minecraft Dungeons. Dungeons 2 will release this year for PC, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, Switch, and Switch 2. Real quick, noticeable that it's on the original Switch, but it's not being mentioned for PS4. You would think it would just put it on PS4. The pair announced on Saturday, the pair of the companies, that is, featuring new locations, encounters, and loot. And then they have a quote here. This is an all-new action RPG adventure where you'll take on high-stakes encounters, thrilling challenges, and exploring never-before-seen locations in the Minecraft universe. Do we have a verdict on the pronunciation?
Surprisingly, no.
Yeah, that's I think that's it. It's
so
like
the AI module says Mojang, but you should never trust that.
No.
And then the one below that says Mojang, and then on Reddit they're saying both. So
I think people who work there have said both, and that's why it's always been confusing. It's like, okay, the people that work there, like from the beginning, like the people who founded the company have said both, and like individuals will say it a different way sometimes. So always been confusing. For this game, Nathan, I'll just say that this is the like Minecraft spinoff that really worked. That first one I know did really well. You would think that there's a natural sort of way for Minecraft to move into all these different things. I think the reality is for a game like this and for an audience that it targets or has targeted for many, many years now, they actually want most of the weird experiences to exist inside the game in the same way as like a Roblox or a Fortnite, where like, let's just kind of build that stuff into the game itself. But Dungeons is big enough and specific enough that I think that they found their way with this one, as opposed to like Minecraft Story Mode or the handful of other spinoffs.
Story mode was really weird.
Yes.
I mean, like it's cool that they're trying stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
But it never really seemed to fit like what people enjoy about Minecraft in particular.
Yep. I think there is but this for Dungeons, there is an audience that's like, I want to just go fight the mobs and take on new dungeons and sort of feel a propulsion of progression that is definitely in Minecraft proper, but Minecraft also has all kinds of ways of distracting you and like take time, go build your stuff off to the side. What if I just want to like move forward through a story that's going to take me from one location to the next? And I think, yeah, Dungeons is definitely one that succeeded at that. It's, these are just Diablo-like action RPGs, and they also have to be sort of a thing that developers have really nailed down now. So it's probably pretty fun to make these as well.
Yeah, as chat said, it's baby's first Diablo.
Yeah, and that's like such a great idea on its face. It's definitely I think if Minecraft was 10 years older than it is, we would have got Minecraft karting games, right? And Minecraft sports games, sort of like Mario. But they moved past that, and that just became, that's what Mario does. All these other games, we'll find some other way. A Diablo-inspired game feels like that. Oh, yeah, that's what we do with these kinds of games at this point.
I wish we got Minecraft Kart.
Me too.
That could have really been something.
Yeah, I guess there's always still a chance. But that would have been something for sure. All right, let's get into these other stories. Let's just do this thing. Crimson Desert caught using AI images resulting apology written for suckers. This comes from Luke Plunkett at Aftermath.
And
As
Aftermath
players,
website. Subscribe now.
yeah, yep, that's I love you guys are really good at headlines. I always appreciate it. As players began making their way through Crimson Desert, a sprawling RPG adventure released last week, they started noticing that the game featured multiple examples of AI-generated imagery. In response to the allegations, the team's developers at Pearl Abyss have issued both an apology and a statement attempting to explain the presence of the images in the game. Posting on Twitter, "We would like to address questions regarding the use of AI in Crimson Desert. During development, some 2D visual props were created as part of early stage iteration using experimental AI generative tools. These assets helped us rapidly explore tone and atmosphere in the earlier phases of production. However, our intention has always been for any such assets to be replaced, following final work and review by our art and development teams with work that aligned with our quality standards and creative direction. Following reports from our community, we have identified that some of these assets were unintentionally included in the final release. This is not in line with our internal standards, and we take full responsibility for it. We also acknowledge that we should have clearly disclosed our use of AI. While these tools were primarily used during early production with the expectation that these assets would be replaced prior to release, we recognize that this does not excuse the lack of transparency. We sincerely apologize for these oversights." And then they talk about comprehensive audits and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, this is sucker shit, right? Because we like Nathan, you've been writing for a long time.
Mhm.
Would you ever, in your writing, put a placeholder in place that could be mistaken at a glance for a real sentence?
No, of course not. And in fact, I have a whole method around this because, like,
Yeah,
especially when I'm working on longer pieces like the ones that I'm doing for Woke Week, I do put like a lot of placeholders in there just as like,
same.
to remember to come back to a section and like elaborate on it or to put a quote or whatever else. And it's always all capital letters and like a bunch of exclamation points, make it as long as
Yep.
possible. So it's like, I cannot miss this. I will not forget to remove it because if I did, as we're seeing with Crimson Desert, that would be very embarrassing.
It would look
And I do not
unprofessional.
want that
Yeah.
egg on my face.
Yes, it's there are classic techniques people use, TK, something that
Yep.
just strikingly looks like, oh, that is like catching my eye in how much it stands out, and there's reasons you do that so you don't do what they are claiming they did here. I of course I don't believe them. The conveniently oh, we even forgot to disclose. Yeah, all
Right.
of that lines up with kind of what we would expect here of a company wanting to use these things, wanting to keep it quiet, getting caught, then apologizing for getting caught, and coming up with the excuse that
Mhm.
sounds plausible to anyone that doesn't think about it too much, and then anyone who
Mhm.
does gets to look crazy for just yelling about it. But I mean, part of me feels like we're gonna have to get used to this. It's gonna be used over and over. But part of me always wants to scream. There are massive companies like in Japan, and I never like, I don't want to like call it name names because it's
Mhm.
always going to be changing. But there's massive publishers in Japan that have made it clear to their employees, do not use generative AI because our lawyers are afraid of it, and
Right. And
and
they should be.
rightfully so, they should be. And so it's like we don't have to go around being like everyone's doing it because that's actually not true, right?
Hmm. It also just like, I don't know, Crimson Desert is this interesting example in that it feels like a game that was just meant to be like very large and like packed to the gills with stuff, like
Yes.
various things that you can do, different activities, systems, a gigantic landmass to explore, all of that. And I think that when that is the end goal of a game's development process, then it becomes more tempting to use something like AI to cut corners or
Absolutely.
to, increase efficiency, whatever that means, even as a lot of people have found it to actually make things take more time. But yeah, I just feel like this is a kind of end goal for game development, sort of puts us in this place where none of the component parts are necessarily the best. And that's disappointing because I think that there's a version where like there's a version of this thing that Crimson Desert is that could be really cool and really fun and intricate instead of kind of janky and weird. I mean, that version is basically Red Dead Redemption 2. But you compare these things. Red Dead is like incredibly handcrafted and like still stands the test of time even today. Whereas Crimson Desert seems like this game that just, again, it's made for the generation of people who are also doing things on their phone while playing a game. And that's just like
Yes.
that bums me out. Like that's such a sad way to play a game to not like give it your attention.
Yeah, and it's I mean, we could see that has worked, right? Promising just endless amounts of content from this game has been one of the bullet points that has made people very excited about it. So like
Mhm.
that temptation that you're speaking about of that's what they want. What's the best way to feed coal into that engine? And AI represents itself that way. So I think a lot of developers are going to continue to be tempted by that. But I mean, I'm someone who has a lot of criticisms of Red Dead Redemption 2. What I would never criticize it for is not being handcrafted or anything.
Right.
Because and all that stuff being so crucial to what I know people like about Red Dead
Oh
Redemption 2.
man.
Is why I'm a little bit confused by this one because it's like you can tell there that
Mhm.
I'm thoughtless is the word I keep coming back to for Crimson Desert. And I won't be surprised when we find
Mhm.
more stories. I won't say will, when we
Yeah.
might find more stories that this game used AI in ways that we don't know about yet. Like
Um,
tell me who the composer is of the music. I want to talk to them about it. Like then we'll actually have a conversation about how much AI was actually used in this game.
so potential dark future that I just imagined that does feel plausible, although not necessarily as something that's going to come to pass. Will we discover an AI generated art asset in Grand Theft Auto 6 when it comes
I
out?
mean, I mean, right? There's so many angles for that, right? Because even if the studio at a top level is saying don't do that,
Mhm.
it's good. Like there's so many
Yeah.
people working on these games, and people are going to be like worried about being able to stay ahead on this game, where like we know
Especially
it's a
given that
pressure
like
cooker.
yeah, like they want that game to be out this year. Like that is the
Yes,
plan. That seems to be pretty set in stone.
it does feel
So
set in stone. Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
I
I guess we'll
I think
see.
and it's like in that situation, I guess we'll see when it comes out if that's something like that does happen. But yeah, I won't be surprised if we find one thing in there and it sort of just poisons the well a little bit.
Hmm.
I will continue to be looking for games where it's very obvious that the person went through painful learning processes to make their game better. Because in my experience, those have always been the better games. As we've kind of had these last few years of potential AI influences in what we're
Hmm.
actually playing. Let's stick with Crimson Desert though. There's plenty of criticisms that people have had for it. They do seem like they are on top of at least listening to those and responding to them. Crimson Desert gets a new patch which improves controls and adds new item storage. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Crimson Desert has received a patch to improve its controls and make some other player requested changes. According to developer Pearl Abyss, the new version 1.00.3 patch improves keyboard and mouse controls, which I wouldn't say were like useless, but they were pretty close to useless before this. It also makes tweaks to the response speed of jump inputs and the interaction UI, which I'll see for myself. It also adds private storage, which can be used to store items from the player's inventory. It can be found at the Howling Hill camp. They have quotes here. As we mentioned in a previous notice, we have been paying close attention to your experiences across issue reports, videos, live streams, and community discussions. Your feedback has been invaluable to us, and we appreciate the time and care you've taken to share that with us. Um, Nathan, I really don't like this game. I've been playing it quite a bit. I really don't like it, so I'm going to try to avoid always coming at it from the most like cynical perspective.
Hmm.
But I can't help like part of me feels like the way that they have responded to every little criticism so far because they really have, and even like
Yeah.
through the early parts of playing through the review process, they were updating things in a big way.
Yeah.
This game does it feels visionless, and they are just kind of waiting to like
Right.
they're turning the dial and looking back at the audience. They're doing
Mhm.
that thing. Like, do you like this? Do you like that?
Right.
And that permeates this game. That's not me saying that they shouldn't be making these improvements. I think in a lot of cases they obviously should be. But I don't know. How do you feel about it all?
Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier that like it's a game made for this kind of like content inundated generation where they just like want to jingle as many keys at you as possible
Yeah.
to get your attention. Which I don't necessarily even blame the developers for that entirely because it is a unique
No.
challenge to be dealing with the fact that we are all constantly just barraged with stuff that could be holding our attention. Whether that is, video games, obviously, but also, TikTok, Netflix, Instagram, whatever your service of choice is. And so, yeah, like, especially if you are saying, okay, we're going to devote millions and millions and millions of dollars to a game, it's like, okay, it needs to like grab and hold
Yeah.
people's attention. But at the same time, if all you get out of that is this big tub of gray goop, then like, is that really worthwhile? Or are you just making something that, again, is designed to have people interact with it and not really be enriched by that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Also,
I,
just as an aside, it is wild to me that there was not personal storage in the game from the get-go. That's crazy. That is like 101 level shit. And
yep.
also, like, didn't they make an MMO? MMOs always have that. Like, why would
Right.
you not
That's
put that in your big
surprising.
single player adventure game?
Yeah, I love hearing the stories, and this is not a criticism, but just it's funny to hear these stories of the guides writers talking about like, okay, I wrote this big long thing about how to get around the annoying lack of early fast travel. You're going to find these
Mhm.
fast travel points, you're not going to be able to unlock them for 50 hours or whatever. So here's how to make that less of a headache. And then, like one of the first updates adds these very, very early fast travel points right next to some of these other fast travel points that you'll unlock
Mhm.
later. It's yeah, it does feel like just sort of throwing, the bandage on the big tub of water that has a leak on it. Like okay, we've done something about this.
Mhm.
Yeah, enriching like lack of nourishment is kind of how I would describe most of my time with this. And I don't see them fixing those problems. That's not to say that people aren't finding things that they enjoy here
Yeah,
or they
people in
aren't enriched
chat
personally.
seem to
Yeah.
be like digging it.
Yeah, a
At
lot of
least
people
some of
do
them
like it.
do.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like it's a mixed impression. Some people are like, yeah, this game is a fucking mess, but it's still enjoyable.
Yes.
Others are saying like, yeah, nah, not for me. Which, yeah,
Yep.
I mean, if nothing else, I do enjoy the idea of there finally being like another really big budget, like 6.5 out of 10 video game.
Yep. It
With all
reminds
the
me of
highs and lows that entails.
yeah, it reminds me of Biomutant. I like that is where it's like, yeah, this game is shaped like a AAA game,
Uh-huh.
and it has a lot of stuff in here. Is it good? I don't know, but there's a lot of it. And this is maybe a little bit better than Biomutant, but it reminds me a lot of that game. Yeah, I've continued to play it. We'll talk about it more on the Bombcast tomorrow, everybody. Looking forward to like talking with Mike about it, and Dan when he gets back from his assignment. We'll see what we have to say on that episode. All right, let's get on to some more stories after we take a very quick break. If you want to skip out on these, you can get the ad-free version of the show by going to giantbomb.com/join, become a premium member. Gets you the ad-free version of the video and audio show over there on the website. We'll be right back. All right, we are back for Game Mess Mornings. That's Nathan Grayson. I'm Jeff Grubb. Let's continue on here with even more AI. Square Enix has partnered with Google to put an AI chatbot in Dragon Quest X. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. Square Enix has announced it's partnering with Google to add an AI chatbot character, to its Dragon Quest MMO. Announced during a press event this weekend, Dragon Quest X will use Google's Gemini to power a conversational AI companion called Chatty Slimy, who will
Oh
help
no.
guide lost players. Yeah, they're doing this to a slime on top of everything else.
Are we allowed to kill him? Do they let us just
Right?
like
I'll tell you what you are going to be allowed to do because they won't be able to stop you. Get them to say slurs. Like that's going to happen. Speaking to Japanese publication Sankei, head of development Takashi Anzai said new players won't feel lonely wondering where to start playing. It will become their own personal companion. The publication said when a player talks to Slimy using the chat function, it automatically generates voices and engages in conversation. The AI also analyzes information from the game screen, and Slimy may even initiate conversations when a powerful enemy is defeated or a rare item is obtained. Okay, well, that part does sound genuinely annoying, but here my sort of concern here, Nathan, would be let's pretend it works perfectly because first of all
Mhm.
it won't, but let's pretend it works perfectly. These are the kinds of things that I'm like. This seems to me at best a crutch. I
Right.
want developers thinking about the like every aspect of the design of their game and how a human being will approach it and how you can best build the game to onboard a person, to be welcoming, to be thoughtful of how a human is interacting with you, with all the stuff that you've built, and putting a character in there to sort of figure it out for you and explain it over and over in a fun, chipper voice that never ever is mean
Mhm.
to you. That to me sounds like we solved it by using AI, and you most certainly didn't. You've just put in this thing that will sort of translate your lack of work into something that feels more welcoming.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel about it, or do you have other concerns?
Yeah, for sure. Also, like, this is a weird case in that Dragon Quest X originally came out in 2012,
Yes.
like long before the specter of AI, cast a like black cloud over the industry. Um, and so like it just feels like an odd fit. But then, yeah, again, this is a thing that like has become a trend. A bunch of different companies have been trying to say like, okay, let's put an AI chatbot into this game because some players maybe, don't understand how to play, so they'll need to ask questions and whatever. It's like, okay, well, A, tutorials already are there, and B, like this is what good game design facilitates, is a
Yes.
learning process over the course of a game, such that you go from a state of no knowledge whatsoever to like mastery. One of the best examples of this ever, in my opinion, especially because of how invisible all of it is, it's like the original Portal. Portal is like a masterclass in how to teach somebody
Yep.
to effectively be fluent in like another language, albeit one of action, over the course of, not very much time at all. You start out and you're like, I don't know what to do with any of this. This is crazy. And by the end, you're like, like gravity means something different to you than it did at the start of the game.
Yep.
That's the fun of video games. And so like nobody wants this, but also I wrote about this last week because we ran a piece about GDC and kind of the anxieties that people were feeling around it.
This feels like
and
a
of
deal
course,
that might
one
have
of those-
happened at GDC, by the way. This feels like
Yeah.
something that could have happened there. Yeah.
But I think that one of the important things to keep in mind about AI at this point is that, you have all these people saying, oh, it's going to get so much better. It's going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. It's going to change the industry, and all these other industries besides. And the fact of the matter is, like, it's already been the like supposed goose that lays golden eggs for 3-4 years,
Like
almost
3-ish years. Yeah.
yeah, coming up on like half a decade. And this is still like the biggest companies in the world. This is the best they can come up with for it, is
It's
a
Clippy.
chatbot that will play the game for you, or AI NPCs that just sort of like drone on and on and on and like kill a game's momentum if you decide to engage with them, or like NVIDIA's horrible, weird faces. Like it's just a series of solutions looking for a problem when there is not a problem that needs solving in this particular way. So it's like, what are we doing? What is the point of any of this?
Yeah, I didn't include some of the updates on what people have discovered about DLSS 5 late last week, but we can touch on it briefly here. There was, I mean, it's clear that they are at least misrepresenting, if not outright lying at NVIDIA. Jensen Wong was saying things like it understands the geometry. And then a YouTuber whose name is escaping me, I apologize. Chad, if you want to throw it out there, I'll try to give them credit. Reached out to NVIDIA and got one of their engineers to kind of answer the question. And it's like, no, this is happening on the finalized 2D picture. They are just putting a filter on top of that, which is, of course, we all recognize it as we look at it. We were seeing that that's
Right.
what was happening, but they kept insisting that was not what was happening. Although from the beginning, I'm like, that was never my issue with it. But whatever it's happening, it's not happening where they say it's happening. And
Mhm.
people are finding more examples of just how it was misunderstanding what it's looking at. A shadow on a character's nostril being translated into a wider nostril in the finalized image. And it's like those little things add up over time from when like the game was made until years later. If people have been using DLSS 5 for a long time, it's like the finalized product feels different than the one that was intended. And that's like, what game do
Mhm.
we actually try to preserve once we get to that point with the game? It's all these weird questions that could stack on top of one another and cause a game of telephone that is just bad for the game. But yeah, NVIDIA misrepresenting this thing gets back to your original point here of this can't be the thing you're talking about when you say that this is going to be a $1 trillion business, right? This is
Right.
just like poor filter. Like we've had Instagram filters for a long time, and
Yeah.
these ones are worse than some of the ones we've seen before.
Right, right. At best, they're offering like a series of weird little doodads that people might mess around with for a second. And like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to playing the game the normal way now because this didn't actually do anything for me. Also, while we're talking about NVIDIA, you would really think that somebody with the wealth and resources of Jensen Huang could afford better jackets.
Yeah, man. Look, I get having like the one leather jacket you brought on stage
Oh.
like 10 years ago, but he has 500 of them, and they all look exactly the same and
Yeah,
kind
and
of
they all cost a lot of money too. He's
cost a
spending
lot
like
of
ten
money.
thousand dollars on those things.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
I get it. I'm not someone who's a fashion forward, but I've definitely raised my eyebrows at his jacket choice over the years. This is not the first example, getting back to Dragon Quest, of an AI character showing up in these games. Let's see. AI chatbots showed up in Where Winds Meet and has resulted in obscene manipulation from some players. Fortnite had a similar thing where it had a Darth Vader chatbot that was, I think they had to like reduce people's interaction with it, or what people could actually do with it, because it was saying swear words and slurs to players. Darth
hmm
Vader out there saying slurs is exactly what the Disney Corporation invested millions of
yeah.
dollars into Epic to get, right?
I mean, also just completely wild, given how jealously Disney has guarded their properties for so long, in
Yeah.
terms of like letting fans do anything with them, in terms of just like suing, like being hyper
I
litigious.
mean, letting
And
their
now they're like,
partners
okay,
do with
but
it, like it.
also
Yeah, go ahead.
this robot can say whatever it wants to while wearing the skin of Darth Vader. We're fine with that. It's like, what? Like,
Right.
what
It
are we
shows how
doing?
much the wool has been pulled over these executives' eyes, because even their partners, like you hear horror stories of people from EA
Yeah,
during the Star Wars license era, of what it was like to go back and forth with Disney about making any specific decision, because they were
yeah.
so they guarded that stuff so closely. And so what changed there? Well, the executives have bought in on AI, so anything it does in their eyes is inherently good, and they work backward from that. It's like, okay, so it's another one of these investor cult situations, like
hmm
self-driving and the metaverse and all that other bullshit.
Right. Well, yeah, and it's just like you motherfuckers single-handedly extended copyright law, and now you're just throwing that out the window. Like you've done irreparable harm, and now you're like, no, whatever. On to the next thing.
All right. Speaking of, on to the next thing, let's move on from some of these AI stories to Sega's Stranger Than Heaven will headline an Xbox partner event this week. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. Microsoft has announced its next Xbox partner preview digital event will take place later this week on Thursday, March 26th. Partner Preview is Xbox's event series that focuses on upcoming games from third-party developers. According to an announcement, this week's installment will include news on upcoming games from partners including Sega, GSC Game World, and Owlcat Games. It says plus brand new reveals, world premieres, and Xbox Game Pass announcements. The March 26th partner preview will feature an in-depth look at Ryoga Gotoku's new project, Stranger Than Heaven, which was Project Century, if people are trying to place that in their head, and then an update on Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, plus new looks at The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, which I believe is the Owlcat game. I've appreciated these Xbox partner previews in the past, because they do a pretty good job of showing off exciting new stuff and then giving the developers a chance to kind of talk in a way that I find to be entertaining and mostly informative. And I'm definitely looking forward to Stranger Than Heaven, and I want to see more of that game. What are your expectations for a game like that tries to be the most recent spinoff from Yakuza and Like a
Yeah.
Dragon?
I mean, they're definitely taking a big swing with this one, which is
Yeah,
exciting. Like that it's, set between 1915 and 1943,
right.
is an interesting way to, spin everything. That said, like that studio has not necessarily been knocking it out of the park recently. Pyro
Yeah,
Yakuza was kind of like weird and didn't really feel like it had much of a point. And then Kiwami 3, of
Kiwami
course, has
3.
been fraught with numerous different issues, especially around choice of voice actor. Um, and so, yeah, like I think this is also a moment where they could either plant their flag and say, like, yeah, the soul of this studio is still present. Or this could be indicative of the fact that, like, when some of their leadership left, the kind of like animating forces that made the game so good also
That's the
left.
concern.
We will see. But I mean, if nothing else, like this game looks like it is trying something, and I can always applaud any game that tries something. So
Yep, exactly. Like it's definitely one of those ones where it's like when I was a kid and was thinking, like imagining different kinds of video games that could exist, or even I guess movies. It was always like I want like a story about a place that evolves over time and what it was like to live there in 1 year, and then what it was like to live there 100 years later. And this definitely seems like it's trying to maybe touch on some of that stuff. Of course, I'm
yeah.
fantasy booking a game I haven't played, but that's the dream, and it definitely seems like they are pulling on that string at least a little bit. So yes, I I hope that, like, to get to your point, that the reason they feel like they might have been missing recently is they've been putting so much effort into this game, as opposed to what is the other concern, and it's like that leadership left, and now they're
Mhm.
a little bit rudderless. Let's hope that's not the case, and this game could prove it one way or the other. If it has a lot of the
Yeah.
similar troubles that we've seen, it's like, okay, it's time to be concerned about this studio that seemed to have everything figured out. Like, they really were a poster child of, look, you can reuse assets and save money and bring characters back and use that same setting in 7 different games and just sort of slowly update it over time. And
Mhm.
and people are not going to just not complain. They're going to appreciate that because they've invested so much time in the space that it becomes this thing that they are happy to see again.
Right. It's like
And
going home.
yes, it's like going home, and you're like, I hope that they can maintain that, because I want to keep pointing to a studio like that to say, developers, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time.
Right. Right. Yeah. It is really incredible what they've managed to accomplish over the years. And you have all these conversations happening right now around like, yeah, how do we make game development more efficient? How do we make it possible to release more games in
Yeah.
a shorter time frame? And of course, everyone again is saying like AI or like scope them differently for sure. But like Yakuza is a great example of how you
Yep.
have the same setting, you reuse some assets, which I know a lot of gamers hate, but like that's a reality of game development,
It's good.
and you just keep telling new and inventive stories in that location. I think everybody wins in that scenario.
Yeah, exactly. It's the other company I always point to is Capcom. Of course, they were talking about AI this week, saying no Gen AI, but we will be looking to use AI for improved efficiencies elsewhere. It's like, yeah, you and everybody else. Let's see what that really looks like. I mean, the stories we keep hearing is it's going to be, or it causes headaches, or at least causes some headaches, and a lot of people claim it causes more headaches than it solves. And
Hmm.
if I were to be judging from an end user standpoint, if Windows is an example of what it's like when a company really turns up that dial of, let's use AI to improve the efficiency of writing our code, it seems pretty bad to me. Uh,
Yep.
we'll probably try to talk over. God, actually, talking over the Xbox partner preview is going to be difficult this week. Everybody, we're heading out to PAX. Some of us will still be here on Thursday. Others Thursday, so others will not. I will be here on Thursday, so I'll try to maybe put something together, but no promises. We're going to have to figure out what this week looks like when we have our meeting here in a little bit. Uh, Death Stranding 2 is off to a great start on Steam. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. Thursday marked the release of Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, which launched on PC after being a PlayStation 5 exclusive for about 9 months. And it seems that, given all the praise it has received, it was highly anticipated. Eagle-eyed Reset era users have noted that during its launch weekend, the game reached a whopping 57,000 concurrent players on Steam, or around 58,000, a figure that the original game never came close to. So yeah, definitely seems like releasing the first game, eventually releasing it on PC, built up an audience on PC. That game sold. I remember hearing numbers like 5 million copies on PC.
Mhm.
It was published by 505. This time Sony is publishing it, I believe, on PC,
Yeah,
or at least they're
which
much more
means that
involved.
that's
Nixies,
not
yeah,
going to happen again in the future because Sony has
exactly.
said that they are pulling back on their PC releases.
Yeah,
A huge
I don't
shame.
even, they haven't said that publicly, right? But it seems
Yeah,
like they're going to say that publicly here pretty
yeah.
soon. This is exactly why we talk about this, Nathan.
Hmm.
Like, this is working. So what is Sony thinking? And I would say that I think what they're probably thinking, Nathan, is that they can always re-squeeze the tube of toothpaste, but
Yeah.
but once it's out there, it's hard to put it back in. So they see an opportunity right now, as PlayStation 5 is the default console for the upcoming release of Grand Theft Auto 6, a game that will
Mhm.
not be on PC when it launches. So
Yep.
PlayStation's going to get this big opportunity to sort of almost relaunch the PlayStation 5. And I think
Mhm.
they want to like sort of reset everything, all of their potential dials that they could turn on. They want to reset all of
Mhm.
those to zero. So after that happens, they can reassess at that point. So I think no matter what, no matter how well this game is doing, no matter how
Mhm.
well a lot of their own games have done or didn't do, I think they're happy to sort of like, let's reset the clock and go from wherever Grand Theft Auto 6 takes us. Does that
Yeah.
sound right to you? That's me just kind of guessing at what's happening here.
I mean, it's also both Microsoft and Sony are like reevaluating what it means to have a
Everything.
console,
Yeah.
because Xbox had their like everything can be an Xbox or anything can be an Xbox campaign, that went over like a lead balloon, and they've now like I guess walked that back. They're like, okay, we're not doing that campaign anymore now that we have new leadership in charge. And so I think that both platforms are like, okay, we tried to broaden our reach a little bit. We tried to include PC, and like Microsoft is still doing that, of course, because of Windows. But I think that now they're pulling back and saying, okay, are we like diluting our brand? Is this a good way to do things? Maybe not. And as you're saying, Sony can always start releasing games on PC again. They can do that anytime.
Yep.
So I mean, I guess why not A/B test it? But it's still like it is lost sales. But at the end of the day, especially if you're Sony, you're making a lot of money on hardware. That's why you make that box in the first place, because it's going to make you money. So
Yep.
I'm sure that they're looking at the numbers and saying, I think we're losing money here, or at least we could be making more if we're selling more PlayStations. And so no more PC games, which
And
bummer for people like me who pretty much entirely
Same.
play stuff on PC. I have a PlayStation 5. I just don't feel like using it because my PC is right here. It's already so much more convenient. I mean, again, all of my like save data can be used on Steam Deck via Steam Cloud. Like, why would I do anything else? But, it's not my call.
Yep, I'm the exact same way. That's the exact. My PlayStation 5 is over there. Rarely gets turned on. Loved playing all those PlayStation games on PC. Yeah, it's for a company that has to launch a PlayStation 6 in the next several years, they are certainly looking at their marketing teams and the consultants they're talking to, all telling them like, here are the top buzzwords that you're going to want to associate with the PlayStation 6 to make people feel like they absolutely have to have that thing. And I bet that list is pretty grim looking. I bet 8K is on that list, and everyone's going like, that's not going to work. 8K, don't really say 8K because no one gives a shit. And that's right. And so when they have to convince you to buy a new console, FOMO is going to be key. And the fear of missing out on a big PlayStation game that will never come to PC is going to be crucial for them to get you to maybe convince yourself to spend $800 or more to buy the PlayStation 6. So
I cannot miss out on the 3th standing. It's going to have the 3 replacing the E. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
The 3th. I didn't play enough Death Stranding 2. In fact, I barely started it. I'm going to play it on PC now. Looking forward to it, especially after not enjoying Crimson Desert. It's like, at a certain point, I'm going to be happy to put that down, shut up about it, move on to a game I'm probably going to enjoy.
Yeah, you need a different game where you spend a lot of time walking around.
Exactly. Give me just a slightly different flavor of that. Last Friday, Matt Piscatella over at Circana dropped the February 2026 Circana report. Circana is actually probably how you say that. He's got a few interesting bullet points worth talking about here. This is from him all over Blue Sky. Resident Evil Requiem debuted as the best-selling video game of 2026, as overall spending in February grew slightly when compared to a year ago, reaching $4.6 billion. That's a big point of what he talks about here is Resident Evil Requiem did very good. Its blockbuster debut and a 27% boost in subscription services helped video game content spending stay flat when compared to February 2025. In hardware, Nintendo Switch 2 drove 22% year-on-year spending growth, although it wasn't the best-selling hardware. Hardware spending increased that 22% to $326 million, excuse me. Spending on Switch 2 hardware offset year-on-year declines across PlayStation 5, Switch, and Xbox Series. So all those other devices were down, but PlayStation 5 again led the hardware market in both units and dollar sales. Nintendo Switch 2 repeated its January performance, ranking second across both measures. With 9 months in the market, the life-to-date installed base of the Switch 2 is trending 45% ahead of the original Nintendo Switch. So, Nathan, I want to put those two things together real quick and be like, the Switch 2 was staying far ahead of the Switch 1. People did not have the questions that they had about the Switch 1 originally. Everyone who was super into the Switch 1 showed up for the Switch 2. But January and February were maybe showing that audience has not been depleted, but certainly saturated to a certain degree of the people who knew showed up. Now it's time to start selling this thing to that next audience. And maybe Nintendo doesn't have the juice to do that. And then, of course, Pacopia shows up and changes that story sort of overnight.
Yeah,
so we're going to get those March numbers, and it's going to look very different. How fortuitous, I feel, is the word. Just this game popping off at the exact right moment to answer every question that people were going to have about the potential long-term success of the Switch 2. Is it that much of an answer? Am I overstating things?
I mean, that time will tell on that front. Just in
Yeah.
terms of like, yeah, has that game sold as well as the buzz suggests that it has?
Yeah.
Because people love that game, and it really is like the exact right game to release to a particular audience. Like, the millennials that drifted away from Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like this is a game for them, and it seems to really be hitting in that regard. But also like there's so many other factors to consider. Like right now, everybody is hurting money wise.
Yes.
The price of hardware keeps increasing, and so I'm sure that people look at yet another expensive device and they think, I don't know about that. I should probably save for the future. Like people are concerned right now, and I think that as a result, a lot of the audience that would have bought a Switch 2 is saying, well, I don't need that necessarily. I've got a Switch 1 and it still works and it still plays a lot of games and they're still releasing cool indie games for it. Even a few like first party Nintendo games. So we'll see. Like I think the Switch 2 obviously has like really good long-term potential because it's a great little device.
Yeah.
And also there's a new Fire Emblem coming out this year, and the day that happens is the day that I'm buying the Switch 2.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
They do have games like that on the horizon, and they have plenty of the big levers marked Zelda and 3D Mario that they have not pulled yet. Like we all knew that was coming though, so it's like the question mark was the Animal Crossing slot and that audience. Can they do that again? And obviously it's anecdotal, but like when I am browsing Instagram or TikTok or whatever, I've seen enough videos to make me convinced that something is happening here, of people being like, here's, me and my partner discussing like, oh man, what? I have to buy new hardware for this game. Oh my God, I don't want to have to do that. And of course the video ends with them coming back from Best Buy, playing the game at home because they just bought it with the Switch 2. And it's like, yeah, I think that is probably what's happening here. And, I've definitely had this conversation on this show a bunch of times about justifying to yourself the purchase, even if you've already made it. And obviously if you've already spent the money, you already have the thing. Yeah, that in a silo, that it doesn't matter. You already have the thing. You're going to probably keep buying things for it just to continue to justify it to yourself. But that conversation was the one that I felt was relatively prominent, of going out there being like, why did I get this thing? Look at all the games I could be playing on my Steam Deck instead. Is this thing really worth it? And that conversation has quieted quite a bit since Pocopia came out. As I think a lot of people are going, okay, this does justify it to myself, so I don't have to go out there and tell my friends that I'm regretting my purchase, which I think does kind of filter out into a slightly wider community. So, has it answered all the questions? Like you said, time's going to tell. But Pocopia does feel like a salve for that specific wound that maybe the Switch 2 was nursing over the last couple of months.
Yeah, and they also got a really good port of Requiem.
Yeah, that's where I played it.
Yeah, it's been a solid start to the year for the Switch 2.
Worth pointing out, I'm glad you mentioned that because I saw that. Requiem was number 1 on the PlayStation and the Xbox. It was number 6 on the Switch 2. So it's okay. It runs really well on there, but it's not like a guarantee now that if you put out a great third-party game, it's going to rush to the top of the sales chart. It's sold less than.
Which is a very Nintendo type of problem to have. I mean,
exactly.
People buy the Nintendo machine for Nintendo games. That's always been the case.
Yep.
And even with Nintendo, increasingly embracing third parties in recent years, and the Switch 2 finally being up to par in terms of hardware power with, current Xbox and PlayStation offerings, it's still like, yeah, it's going to take time for that sort of status quo to change, if it ever does.
Yeah, I guess I didn't look at this, and I didn't think about this until right now. It's probably worth pointing out that on the Switch, this would have been a separate SKU. They had that $90 legacy pack that had RE7, RE8, and RE9 for $90. And a lot of people were excited about that. So I bet that lopped off a certain amount of sales that RE9 standalone would have done. But still, I think Nintendo and third parties would like to see a game like RE9 do a little bit better at launch on the Switch 2, just to give them this idea that it's like the Switch 2 is worth your time and investment. All right, let's see here. Anything else worth? Mario Tennis Fever was 11th. Now Nintendo doesn't ever have digital sales included. Other developers and publishers do. That's pretty low for a new game on the Switch or Switch 2. I think Mario Tennis Fever, a game that I thought was okay, was a miscalculation from Nintendo. The excitement levels for that game after the not the first one, but the last one hit Switch. I think people are like, I already have a game like that on my Switch 2. It's the one from Switch 1, but I don't see much of a difference. And there's kind of a bad taste in people's mouths from the last handful of Mario sports games. It just feels like this game has not completely missed, but missed by quite a wide margin. What do you expect Nintendo to like do with its Mario sports games throughout the rest of this generation?
Well, the main thing that I expect them to do, by which I mean I demand, is it's time to let Camelot make another Golden Sun. Take them off of Mario Sports
Please.
duty.
Yeah,
They've done their time. They've served their sentence. It's time for more Golden Sun.
They know what they did wrong with the DS game. They're ready.
Mm-hmm.
They're ready to fix history here. That would be excellent to see. All right, let's get through these last couple of stories. Resident Evil 3 reaches its highest concurrent player number on Steam in 6 years. That's that's the headline is the story here, so we'll just kind of discuss it. I think one thing that I keep bringing up is the amount of investment that Capcom has made in Resident Evil makes people more confident in investing their time and money in Resident Evil and be like, you know what? Why don't I just become a sicko fan of this series? Because I know we're going to get more. There's a ton. I think what happened here is a lot of people played Resident Evil 9 and they were really excited about Resident Evil, and they all looked back. They're like, I skipped Resident Evil 3 because the reviews were kind of at the time compared to Resident Evil 2. I should go back and play that. And that, I think what they're going to find is that game's still pretty fun. It's short. It definitely got dinged for not having quite as much content as some of the other games at the time. And it's not as good as 2 or 4, definitely, but it's still pretty good. And I think people will be like very happy with what they find there. But Capcom has just sort of solved the selling games to people. It feels like with Resident Evil, and 3 is like proving that at this point. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I also just think that like it's really interesting to see how enduring Resident Evil has been as a series, because in like lesser hands, it could just be a relic of like the PlayStation 1 era, like because the start like the series is very much of that time in so many ways, but they've continued to evolve it while still preserving like the fundamental spirit of what Resident Evil is, because it's always been a little campy, a little goofy. And to their credit, they haven't got rid of that. They haven't been like, okay, we're gonna, go
embraced it even
fully serious. It's like, no, we're gonna even in like in 7 and 8, it was like, all right, so it's mold people now, which is like that's really silly. And now like obviously in Requiem, Leon's back doing all of his fucking one-liners. Like Capcom, despite being like any other studio or like any other publisher, like a Ship of Theseus, they still understand what this series is. They've not lost sight of that. And a lot of long-running series, that becomes a problem. But in this case, they still got it.
Yeah, I think Final Fantasy is the point of comparison. And the one thing that Resident Evil and Capcom has solved is, can we have Resident Evil games at a relatively frequent pace? And it might have been, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Yoshi P was saying one of the problems with like getting young people to care about Final Fantasy is they just don't come out often enough. So they go through their entire childhoods, maybe getting one, and if that one's not for them, they're holding the torch for the last one because the last one came out years before they were born. And it's like, you kind of have to get around that problem of games taking a long time to make. What is your solution? And Capcom's like, well, we'll remake a bunch of them while making new ones, let them kind of offset one another. And it's like, oh, clearly that is one of the solutions here. And while Square Enix wants to do that, they kind of did it in the most over the top way with Final Fantasy VII, where it's that's going to take years by itself, and what do the rest of them look like?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, also Square Enix has they have an interesting problem here in that, again, with Resident Evil, like there is a central through line. There's a story that continues to be told. There are characters who recur, whereas every mainline, like numbered Final Fantasy, is a different world, a different cast, a different story. And I think in this age of people's dwindling attention spans and of having a billion different options, it can be hard to convince yourself to get on board with something entirely new. Which is a shame because I've always liked that element of Final Fantasy.
I've loved it,
each time they break new ground. But I think that they are also dealing with something that's a little bit different than the sort of challenge that Resident Evil faces.
Yeah. And people are pointing this out. And yeah, Matt Piscatella did have a little data point. According to Circana's Player Pulse, 62% of U.S. players of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth were aged 35 or older. That number goes up to 77% if you go 30 plus. Yeah, That's a problem. It's a problem that
Yeah.
that they need to kind of figure out. And I don't necessarily know the solution. I think you might have nailed it with like some more continuity. And it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
I guess that maybe you do need that. Lastly, it seems Resident Evil Code Veronica remake is being done by the RE2 and RE4 teams. That comes from a rumor from Dust Golem, who's had a lot of Capcom rumors. I think we all could have guessed that, but especially if that's the one that's actually happening next. Which again, that's according to rumor. Capcom has not said one way or the other. All right, we're running out of time, so let's move on from the headlines. There is no poll question because we did the Bomb 12 on Friday. I still need to update the form link for the Bomb 12. I'll do that when we're done here today. But you can submit your game that you're playing this week. We'll put that into the Bomb 12 as we end this week. We'll probably do that on Thursday because we'll be out at PAX on Friday and the weekend. You should come visit us at PAX. The schedule's out. I think we have it posted somewhere on the website. It's on the Reddit and all that stuff. Check that out. Let's see here. I do have a new poll question. If you've played Crimson Desert, grade it. I want to see what the community thinks. A, B, C, D, or lower. I do know a lot of people are definitely enjoying it. And feel free to put in the comments why you're enjoying it. I'm looking for tips on like people saying, hey, go make your own fun. And I want to like just kind of point me in the right direction so I can maybe make that happen for myself. I would be interested to see what that looks like. All right, with that out of the way, let's see here. Nathan, Grayson, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So you can find me at aftermath.site. We are like Giant Bomb, 100% independent. We're fully worker owned and subscription driven. And so this week we are doing a theme week to kind of promote the entire site. It is called Woke Week. Again, I will show the shirt for people who are not here previously.
Yeah, look at that. It's so good. Yeah, look at that. That's good stuff.
But yeah, so we're doing a package of stories based on that theme. They're all going to be really cool. We spent a ton of time working on them. So it would be sick if you came by and checked that out. You can also find me on Blue Sky at Nathan Grayson. I'm on other platforms too, but I don't really like them. So
Same, exactly. Excellent. Thank you. Let's see here. Giant Bomb. We're going to have more Game Us mornings later this week. Bombcast is tomorrow. We should be doing Monday mornings Mist with Mitch today. We'll be continuing. I think we're on Mist 4. I think that's right. God, it's been a minute actually since we played. So tune in for that. There will be plenty of cool stuff happening on the premium side. Again, check the latest. This is the Run. Millionaire Edition went up on Saturday. So if you missed that, go check that out on the site. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff is happening. I think with all that out of the way, though, we should get on out of here. Nathan, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I had a great time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for watching and listening. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.